We shall never surrender.
One small step for man.
I have a dream. Ask not what your country can do for you.
What's the status quo of your favorite quote? Professor Buzzkill explains all on Quote or No Quote.
Oh, Buzzkillers, the burdens of celebrity are mighty, especially when you're a famous intellectual. Of course, I'm referring to myself, but other brainiacs have suffered before me. Sigmund Freud, for instance, the founder of psychoanalysis and one of the most famous scientists of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, has been heavily burdened with a lot of quote attribution since his death, including the "sometimes a cigar is just a cigar" line. As you know, Freudian analysis placed a lot of analytical weight on the symbolic and psychological meanings of how people used and valued common items such as cigars and cigarettes. Well, among other things, this isn't surprising because Freud was more or less a smoking addict by the time he finished medical school, and he became especially fond of cigars and even became gradually annoyed in social circles where smoking was frowned upon or where other men weren't smoking at the time. And as Freud's stature grew and he became a noted professor, people noticed that his students and medical assistants made sure to take up cigar smoking so they'd be in the professor's good books. As I've said, many everyday objects seemed packed with symbolism and psychological meaning for Freud, especially when people seemed addicted to their use. In addition, many things seemed phallic to Freud. But did this include the humble cigar? Well, if you're a devotee of the interwebs and a follower of one of the endless number of quote of the day Twitter feeds, you are convinced by now that Freud famously dismissed overthinking and overanalysis by saying, "Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar." But did he ever really say it? No, Buzzkillers. But you'd be forgiven for thinking that the good doctor was the father of that quote because expert psychiatrists and biographers of Freud said he was the father of that quote. Reference to this supposed Freudian quip appeared in reputable journals from the 1950s through the 1970s, and the authors often said it was a well-known Freudianism. Well, the quote or no quote research experts here at the Institute have relied on the work of Garson O'Toole, the famous quote investigator, as well as Fred Shapiro of the Yale Book of Quotations, to conclude that there's no evidence that Freud ever said it. And when Dr. Alan Elms, a psychology professor and historian of psychology, concurred in his article entitled Apocryphal Freud, Sigmund Freud's most famous quotations and their actual sources, the chapter was closed on this famous saying as being one of Freud's. After all, Buzzkillers, sometimes a quote is just a no quote. Talk to you next week.
Epicast.